Hi everyone, my name is Daria Gristara. I'm currently a freshman at the College of William and Mary, and I applied just last year. I'm currently a tribe ambassador, so I know a lot about how to get into William and Mary and all the statistics, and I have to learn that as part of my process of being a tribe ambassador. I weekly meet with parents and prospective students to go over the College of William and Mary, and they even have a chance to shadow me. And as part of my job, I have to know exactly what the College of William and Mary looks for in a student. The college admission process is very, very tough. When I was applying, I decided I wanted a lot of options. I wanted to apply to as many schools as I could possibly handle, so I have a lot of options to decide once I got in. I first chose based on geographics. I wanted to apply to a southern school. I was coming from New Jersey and I wanted a warmer climate, so I looked from schools from Washington, D.C. all the way down to Miami. I then looked at myself as a student. I looked at my extracurriculars, my grade point average, my course selection, my SAT score, and I decided to break it down into reach schools, target schools, and safety schools. My most troubling aspect about myself that I was most insecure about was my SAT score, and I based my reach schools based on my SAT score. I then looked at target schools, where both my GPA and my SAT score were good enough to get in. I was right on point with the students that currently go there. And then my safety schools, I looked at that all my statistics were above the accepted students and that I had a really, really good chance of getting in. One thing though is that you can't always trust this system. Personally, for me, I got waitlisted at my safety school, so you really never know with the college admission process. It has so many different facets, and you never know what to expect. You then get to the tough part, which is applying. Filling out all the general information is really easy. As far as extracurriculars, you're going to be in clubs that are very specific to your school. In high school, I was in a club called Young at Heart, which is a club where I weekly went to the assisted living home across the street from my high school, and we did community service events with the elderly. We did a talent show, and we did Name That Tune and different games. But a college admission counselor won't know what Young at Heart is, and you guys didn't even know what Young at Heart was before I explained it. So on my common application, I had to write Young at Heart, a community service club, and I used those two sentences that I got underneath that to describe exactly what I did so that college admissions counselors knew what I was involved in. Your transcript tells a lot about you, the difficulty of your courses, and the workload that you choose to take. And I know that many of you have heard this, and I heard it so many times throughout high school, that a college counselor would rather see you do well in the courses that you take than taking hard courses that you don't succeed in. That being said, you always do want to challenge yourself. And if you're wanting to get into those reach schools, you have to take challenging courses all 4 years. Don't get too overboard though, because you might not be able to handle it. SATs really depend on how many times you take it. You can take them as many times as you want, so you want to really be able to maximize your options. The ACTs are also a really good option. Out of all my friends who are really good at math and science excelled in the ACT, and the people who are good at writing and reading really excelled in the SAT. It's good to try both because you never know, and most colleges accept either. The third option is the essay. The essay serves as a written interview, so pick a topic that is natural for you. This is your one chance to showcase your personality beyond your tests, grades, and your extracurriculars. This is really a chance for you to speak directly to the college admissions counselors. I had a teacher junior year who wanted us to get a head start in our college essays, and I'm forever grateful for him. My teacher had us write down on a piece of paper everything we like about ourselves. So he turned the lights off and we just looked at a piece of paper and had to fill it up with as many words as possible of positive adjectives about ourselves. We had to fill the entire sheet of paper, and when the activity was done, he said, "This is what I need to see in your college essay in a written format. And this is what we need to convey in 500 words. So I had words all over the place, and I didn't know, how will I possibly say this? And he said, instead of saying it, you need to show it. College essays are more of a narrative. They're not a 5-paragraph essay like we're used to writing in high school. It's a narrative, so you're telling a story, and you make sure you don't tell about yourself, but show about yourself. You also just want to write. I know that the college essay can be a lot of pressure because this means a lot. But with any essay, it really just helps me if I just sit at the computer and write. I don't worry about the rules of English and the grammar and punctuation that can come later. Just write, just spit out everything that's coming to your mind into the stream of consciousness. You want to make sure that you get your college essay checked 300 times minimum. I know I wrote mine in March of my junior year, and I looked back on it in July. And from there, I had a few months not looking at it, and I was able to look at it with a brand new, fresh set of eyes. I had teachers look over it, all different types of teachers. I had my parents look over it, I had friends look over it. To get as many opinions as possible is the best way to get an essay that will convey you. And your friends and your family and your teachers know you best, so when they can read it, they'll be like, I really think you should include this. That being said, finding a topic can be very, very hard. Just find a topic that really speaks to you. You want to have something that's you're absolutely passionate about, that you really believe. It could be anything from a sport that you played to a story that happened when you were 8 years old to something as simple as your name. I wrote my essay on my name. I have a really, really unique name, and I always hated it growing up, so I decided to write my college essay on how my name became my identity. And I know that this was the best way to show my personality because I was able to show how my name really displays and reflects my personality for being unique. You want to be able to say stuff about yourself in the most humble and subtle way, with still getting out the fact that you are an interesting person that the college should take into consideration. Make sure that this isn't a 5-paragraph essay. This is a lot like journalism, where you can break it up into a lot of little paragraphs. So, like I said before, don't tell, but show in your college essay. This is your way to speak to college admissions counselors and really get your voice heard. The second most important part to get your voice heard is the interview process. Not all schools have an interview process, and I know a lot of bigger schools do not have this. This could be an important consideration and a factor when you're thinking about what schools to apply to. I didn't want any big schools, so most of the schools I applied to were under 10,000 people. That being said, I had a lot of interviews that I had to do. So, interviews are going to happen for the rest of your life, and college admissions are the first step to that. This is a really good preparation for jobs, for internships that you'll be having to engage in all throughout college and after college. You need to be yourself in an interview, and no matter who that is, just be yourself. If you're a shy person, make sure you're not too shy that you're still projecting yourself, but stay true to who you are. You want to be yourself, you want to dress appropriately. And dressing appropriately means business casual, even Western business attire. Girls, I know that my mom always said this, you want to dress modestly, and boys, you want to dress simply, but still do something to stand out. I was involved in Model UN in high school, and we were always taught to wear a bright, vibrant color whenever we did interviews or at conferences, because that is how you're memorable. And make sure that wherever you're interviewing for, you really know about your school and have questions in mind, because at the end of an interview, the admissions counselor will always be like, do you have any questions for me now? And that's a really good time to show that you're really interested in that school and that you've been doing your research and that you're interested and you want to consider it as a really viable option. Be prepared and practice questions. Whenever I was on my way to an interview, I had my parents have mock questions ready for me to see how I'd react under pressure. And questions for interviews are not always as simple as, so why this school? Or, what would you want to major in? They can be really, really unique. And I've had extremely unique questions like, what kitchen appliance would you be? So be prepared for anything and get ready to step out of your little bubble and get out of your shell and be able to answer anything and really show your personality. That being said, don't be phony. I know that I personally have to know about the interview process as a tribe ambassador at the College of William & Mary, and the admissions counselors always can tell when a student is not being themselves and trying too hard to be perfect. You're human, and colleges know that, and colleges want interesting people. Interesting people is what drives the community at colleges. And so they don't want people pretending to be perfect because no one's perfect. So show your weaknesses sometimes. Laugh if you have a funny joke, or, just be yourself. Picking the right school can be incredibly challenging, but you'll know. So don't worry. Don't pick the school that is best ranked if you don't absolutely love it. have a bunch of options, apply, and make sure that you have all your ground covered. Don't apply to schools that your parents want, don't apply to schools that your friends want, apply to schools that really speak to you, and start as soon as possible. My biggest regret through the whole college admissions process was not starting earlier. So start as soon as possible. Freshman year is not too early. Look at schools in your area. Maybe you do want to stay close to home, or start on vacation. If you're going to Florida, if you're going to New York for vacation, look at schools in the area. You might as well. 4 years is a very, very long time to be unhappy. So you need to pick a school that really makes you feel at home, and a lot of people know it from the minute they step on campus. I personally knew it the minute I saw William & Mary that that was what I wanted to call home for the next 4 years, and it's the best decision I ever made. The college admissions process is very, very, very tricky, and it can be very overwhelming, especially for high school students. There are so many resources out there for you. You have websites like this, you have College Board, you have all your guidance counselors in your high school, you have your parents. You have so many people around you that can help you make the decision, and staying organized and getting a head start is the best way to do it. Applying, as troublesome as it may seem, this earlier you get a head start on it, the better you'll feel. You want to get those applications in as soon as possible. And standing out to college admissions counselors will be a lot easier when you have the time to stand out. So you want to have time to write your essay and really, really, stand out throughout the whole thing and be unique. You're going to have a lot of interesting essay questions throughout the entire process. And I know I had as many as 15 essays that I had to answer, all really, really unique questions. And one thing that really, really helped me was opening up Microsoft Word, copy and pasting each question, and being able to just write whatever came to mind, as random and unique as it may be. Just have confidence in yourself, and remember that if your statistics didn't match with what this college accepted students had, then you wouldn't be even considered. So if you are even considering that school, then they're considering you. So have faith in yourself, and that the college admissions process is so tricky, but you will end up somewhere that you will absolutely love, and you just have to have a positive attitude about it the whole time. I was really lucky that I had that teacher who gave us a head start throughout the whole college admissions process. He wanted to make sure that whatever we were saying, it was really us, and we went through multiple drafts. And he even did something that was very, very interesting. We all had to write our college essays, and when we were all finished, we didn't have our names on them. So he shuffled up all of our essays and handed them out to all our classmates. So I got an essay without a name on it, and I had to read it. And knowing my classmates really well, I then guessed who wrote the essay. And more times, we were able to figure out who it was because that essay really portrayed who they were as a person. So it's less about showing that you're a good student, you're a straight A student. Your statistics and your transcript can tell that. You want to show your personality. If you're someone who is a go-getter, portray that through a story. That's something that happened to you. Telling a story is the easiest way to subtly show who you are as a person. The interview process, just as well, you can stand out. I know that a very important thing that I learned while at college is what happens after an interview. What happens after an interview is just as important as what happens before. So after an interview, you want to make sure that you check up with the person who interviewed you. You'll most likely have their email or phone number, so send them an email, call them, and just thank them for giving you the opportunity. You want to make sure that when you show up to an interview that you have a resume. Resume writing can be really difficult, and I honestly didn't know how to write a resume until I came to college, and I wish I took advantage more of my guidance counselors in high school. So you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of every single resource, because that can make or break an interview, and that can make or break a college decision. All the concrete things like SAT and GPA, don't worry about them, because as long as you did your best ability, that's all that matters. SAT takes a lot of practice and preparation, so I highly suggest taking advantage of community tutoring or tutors even at your school, or hiring a private tutor. for SATs or ACTs, the more you practice, the better you'll do. And even ask older siblings or friends for their old test books. I know I gave away all my test books when I was done with the SAT to my younger friends. So really take advantage of the people around you. And you want to make sure, that being said, that you talk to your friends or your siblings who have been to college before, and you want to get a feel for their environment and how they feel about their environment. I have a lot of friends, clearly, who went off to college this year, and I like talking to them because we all went to such different schools. I have friends who went to city schools, and I can hear their opinions on that. And I have friends who went to very, very small schools with nothing really around, and I can hear their opinion on that. There's a school out there for every single person. So don't apply to school based on rank or their ratings. You want to apply to school that really speaks to you. You can break it down as easy as geographics to if it's a city or if it's a suburb, if they have your program, or if they don't. And many schools will not have maybe a specific program you're looking for. When I went into the college admissions process, I wanted to be a journalism major. I applied to all schools that had journalism majors except for one, and that one school was William & Mary, where I ended up. Majors are very important, and they're very important for certain career paths. If you want to be a doctor, certainly you have to go to a school with a pre-med track. Many other careers have the same exact thing, but for other careers, it doesn't really matter. You want to major in something that really interests you and that you love, and I love English and I love government, and I decided that that would be just as effective as being a journalism major. Many people end up in a career path that had nothing to do with their major or had very little to do directly with their major. So don't overthink it too much. You'd rather be in a place that makes you happy, where the people are vibrant, where the community is encouraging, than at a place that is the best for your program. Pick schools that absolutely speak to you and that make you feel comfortable and that make you feel safe. Being at school, you're far away from home. Whether you're 20 minutes away from home or 7 hours, you are far from home, and it's going to be a hard adjustment for anyone and everyone. You want to make sure that you're at a place that the people will be welcoming and that you'll have a positive outlook on everything because the rest of the people have a positive outlook on everything. I often get questions in the admissions office why I chose William & Mary. And that's such a complex question. I mean, to ask any college student why they picked the school they're at, there's so many facets to that answer. And I end up always telling the parents and the students the reason I chose William & Mary is because I was driving down from New Jersey. We got here really, really late at night. And we went out to dinner, and then we just walked around the campus, and it was dark on the campus, so I didn't even get to see everything. But I felt at home, and I looked around, and it was absolutely beautiful, and I've never been to Williamsburg, so this was my first time to Williamsburg, but I just felt at home. And many, many students feel that. And that night I got to hang out with a friend who was a year older than me that went to William & Mary, and every single person I met I was introduced to as a prospective student. And every single person said, "You have to come here, it's so much fun." And I just felt welcomed, that I was a random senior in high school who came to William & Mary, and I was just welcomed immediately. And a lot of my friends had similar experiences with their school. I also get questions a lot of, what was your GPA? What was your SAT score? And after meeting all my friends here, all of us came from such different high schools, and all of us had such different scores and GPAs and course selections, but we're all here. And that speaks a lot. That's like that at any college. At any college, you're going to have a diverse selection of students who had varying degrees of GPAs and SAT scores and extracurricular involvement and whether or not they had a job in high school. So don't compare yourself to other people, and don't take the stats too much to heart, because schools that I thought I had no chance of getting into, I ended up getting into. So you really never know. The college admissions process is tricky, but you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of everything. If you have any questions at any time, you have people in your high schools and you have people at the college who are willing to answer that phone call whenever you call and answer any questions. I know at the College of William & Mary we have a very, very awesome way of handling undergraduate admissions, and at many schools it's very welcoming. Every tour I went on, I did feel welcomed, and I really got a feel for that school. You can get a feel for any school through the interview process, through the essay questions they ask, through their website, anything. And all these different tools to learning about schools can really make a difference in your decision process. More questions that I usually get from the undergraduate office from parents and students are asking about applying and what really looks good. And I learned through being a tribe ambassador that what looks best is students who do things that they love. They can tell the difference between students who do things to get into a good college and students who do things because they're passionate about it. So, for instance, if you're very, very passionate about dance, like I was in high school, you want to not only dance outside, maybe you're at a private studio, but maybe start a club, start a team in high school. Show that you wanted to bring that spirit and that passion that you have about dance to your high school. Maybe do something involving community service with dance. There's so many options to bring what you love and have a well-rounded viewpoint of things while still sticking to what you love. So if you love tennis, do varying degrees of tennis, maybe be a tennis camp counselor and teach tennis to little kids while also being a varsity athlete. You want to make sure you're well-rounded in the fact, but you still stick to what you're passionate about. It looks better to be involved in something all 4 years through varying degrees and varying different levels than do one club this year, another club this year, another club this year, just so you have all these different things on your resume to put on. Think less about building your resume and more about doing what you love that shows. Do one club and become president of it. Don't do 10 different clubs and go to a meeting once a week. You rather do something that you are really passionate about because colleges want passionate people. That's what drives a college community, and that's what makes these interesting essay questions and these interviews so vital to small schools. William & Mary does ask interesting essay questions and does have an interview process because they want an interesting community, and there certainly is one here. And I think without these interesting essay options and these weird questions that they ask during interviews, it wouldn't be the community that it is. When you're looking at schools, think, do you want a big community? Do you want all these opportunities with all these different students and all these different social opportunities, or do you want a smaller school? It really depends on the person and what you want out of your college experience, and really look at that because that can be a really big deciding factor, and that can be the easiest way to narrow down your college searches. Throughout the whole process, it's going to be tough and it's going to be really weird because for the first time, us as high school students were expected to make a huge life decision. Before the college admissions process, we were really just floating along. Our parents made most of our decisions and we just went with the flow. College is the first decision that you make. That being said, do not pick a school based on rank. Do not pick a school based on, this is the best option for me because it was ranked number 1 in education. I mean, yes, that is a great thing, but you need to feel at home. And financially, that needs to fit your budget as well. You always need to look at what the most important parts of college are. And for a lot of people, it's paying for it and being able to afford it and not being in debt. So that can be the first consideration. The second consideration would be, do you feel at home? And that, for me, was William & Mary. And I looked at many schools and I absolutely loved them. And I always think to myself, what if I ended up there? And you're going to think that too throughout the whole process. And even while you're deciding, like, oh, was this the right decision? I really like this school too. But just know that you need to have a positive outlook throughout the whole thing. And wherever you are, if you're making the most of it and if you're taking advantage of every single opportunity that comes your way socially and as far as clubs and internships and with your professors, then that's great. Also, with big and small schools, you have to remember about class sizes. For many of my friends who went to big schools, they're just naturally brilliant kids who can follow a lecture and excel. For me, I really, really enjoy that one-on-one professor interaction. For the bigger schools, you have larger classes and you have professors who can't, reach every single student. But for some students, that absolutely works. An email is okay, and they like that independence that they get with that. For smaller schools, you get a lot of kids who rely on that professor interaction to be able to look over your essays and such. So looking at size is very, very important. And geographic is important as well. I have a lot of friends who went north for school and they're regretting that with all the amounts of snow that the East Coast has gotten this year. So looking at geographics is important. And then looking at schools that cater to you as far as what extracurriculars you're involved in. So before I really chose William & Mary, I looked and saw if they had a Model UN team because I was really involved in Model UN in high school. And they did. So, and it was ranked very, very high and had a lot of opportunities. So I was like, another bonus. And I wanted to make sure that whatever school I ended up had a dance program so I could possibly take dance classes or join a dance company. So look at what you're involved in high school and see if you can continue that while at college. So that's pretty much it as far as what I believe how to stand out in college. And right now I can answer any questions that anyone has about the college admissions process, and I can think of some questions that I get asked on a regular basis as a tribe ambassador. So I get asked a lot of times by high school students of what they should write their essay on. So essays are very, very troublesome to think of a topic for because there's just so many. But just really choose something that makes you stand out, so it can be an interesting topic. And it doesn't even need to be as interesting as much as you need to write it interestingly. So I had a friend who wrote something as simple about something that happened in his family that was very personal to him. And the way he projected the story was not simple. It was a poem. And it talked in depth about what he went through during high school, about if something happened with his family. And that was a really easy way to stand out with such a simple topic that many students often use. So how you write it is very, very important. Another important question that I often get is how to follow up after an interview. So many times after an interview, I would wait 2 or 3 days to then email whoever interviewed me and send them a formal emailing thanking them for the opportunity to see them that I really enjoyed, and maybe even any follow-up questions that you have about the interview. And that you want to make sure that if you didn't hand in a resume at that time, you can attach a resume either before or after the interview. And you always want to make sure that you're practicing questions before and after, and use the experiences that you learned from that interview for your future interviews. So if you felt like you weren't prepared, or you weren't dressed appropriately, or you didn't act appropriately, that you can practice that to fix for the next time. You're going to have interviews for the rest of your life, so it's very, very important to make sure that you're perfecting them and practicing them all throughout your high school and college years. During the tour is the best time to really get a feel for the school, and you have a tour guide right in front of you, a student who currently goes to that school. So ask as many questions as possible. I know it might be embarrassing, and I have a lot of friends who are tour guides at William & Mary, and they love tours, that they have endless questions and that they constantly have questions because it gives them something to talk about and something that really interests the people that they're giving tours to. So you want to make sure that you're asking questions, your parents are asking questions, and you're staying involved because this is your best time to find out all the little details. Many colleges that you're going to look at also have additional programs like shadowing a student for the day or sleeping overnight. So look into that because that can be another great way to really get a feel for the college beyond the tour. So during a tour, it's very, very specific to looking around and, getting a feel for all the logistics of the school. But you want to know about the social life. You want to know about the clubs and the schools and the professors and the classes that are offered. So being able to hang out one-on-one with a student is a really, really good way to get to know the college as well. When you're deciding between schools, it's also very important to look at maybe alumni in your area and being able to reach out to them. If you don't have any alumni in your area, I didn't, for instance, you can talk to people who went to small schools, and you can talk to people who went to schools similar to you and have their opinions on it. Every person is different and every college is different. So what maybe works for one friend might not work for you. So don't take everything too seriously. You might have a friend who absolutely hates her small school, but it might be very differently set up than other small schools, and vice versa with big schools. For my college essay personally, I set it up as a narrative. So I told a story, and I alluded to this, but I wrote it on my name. So my name is Daria, and I always had a really troubling time throughout elementary school because people couldn't pronounce my name correctly. And on the first day of school, I'd always be so nervous because the teacher would mispronounce my name. Then I would always be jealous of the people who had simple names that were easy to pronounce. So I decided to write my essay on that. So I started out talking about how I dreaded the first day of school every single year. I talked about how I hated my name and I always blamed my parents and got in little petty fights with them and asked them why they couldn't name me something simpler. And then I got into how my name started becoming my identity and that I never needed to write my last name on anything because people knew who I was just based on my first name. I never needed to distinguish. There was never more than one Daria in my class, so it wasn't Daria G and Daria A. It was just Daria. I talked about how I started getting really, really involved in school, and I started having a lot of involvements where I was meeting more and more people, and my name stuck. And it was really easy for people to remember who I was, both teachers and students. And then I talked about how on the second day of my junior year of high school, I had my history teacher see me in the hallway and say, "Oh, hi, Daria." And I said, "How'd you remember me? You only met me yesterday." And he said, "Your name's memorable." And I started appreciating my name. So I talked about that all through my essay, and I went through the transition of how I felt as a little girl and how I felt in high school and how my name really made me stand out, and it really matched my personality because I always was very outgoing and I always liked getting involved in a lot of different things, and my name just became synonymous with that. So really write about something that is important to you. I had one of my friends write about magazines and the photoshopping that they used with girls, and that she was always so self-conscious because she would see girls in magazines that were absolutely beautiful. And then she learned that beauty is more than just being airbrushed and photoshopped and looking beautiful in a dress. It's a lot more than that. It means on the inside. And throughout her whole essay, you really had a sense of who she was as a genuine and sweet person. So you can really convey important parts about yourself that your SAT score, your GPA, your transcript, none of that will tell about you. Your essay and the interview are your one chance to show your personality. And like I said before, you really want to make sure that your personality is shown because colleges want to fill every single gap. They want to have a spectrum of personalities. No college wants to have clones walking around of the same exact person. So by having interesting essay topics and by having an interview, you're really showcasing who you are. So it's absolutely awesome to have that option with schools that you're applying to because the more personalized it is, the more unique you know that the living environment is going to be. I used to look back when I was in high school and say like, oh, I don't think it really matters to me like having like a lot of different students. And I go to a school where 70% of students are in-state. So one may think, oh, there's not really much diversity at the College of William & Mary, but there really is because we have such different personalities. It's less about what you look like and more about how you feel on the inside and your personality. So while students here may, dress similarly or look similarly, or like the same things, we all are such different people with different personalities, and there's a club for every single person at any college because colleges just cater to difference and diversity. So you really, really want to look for that in any college you go to, and you want to make sure that any college you're going to really advertises that because that's the most important part of a college atmosphere and environment. So I have a question here. Is it hard to get a part-time job in college? It's not hard to get a part-time job in college whatsoever. I have a lot of friends who have part-time jobs, and when you're looking at colleges, you might want to see if there's shops and stores nearby that you can just easily walk to. I know a lot of businesses want students to work there and are really flexible with hours. The college transition is very, very tough for a lot of people. So you want to make sure that you're not going overboard and maybe waiting to get a part-time job your first semester, because it might be hard to transition and, um, keep up with homework and schoolwork and all that. Um, and so you really want to pick a job that will be easy with the hours and being able to having a boss who understands that you're a student and that tests come up and homework comes up. I have another question here that says, what should you do if you don't get into your top school? I personally did not get into my top school, and many of my friends did not get into their top schools, and that's why it's considered a top school. So while you may love it now, you need to make sure that you're giving all your schools a fair option, and that you're looking at all your schools objectively, and that you're touring each of them, and that you're really giving them a fair chance, because I'm so unbelievably grateful that I ended up here. And my life would be totally different and I ended up at my top school, and I don't know what I'd be like, but you will be happy, and you can't just put all your eggs into one basket because there's so many other opportunities out there. So someone asked, do you have to take a tour? What if you're not able to go? So I didn't tour a lot of my schools because I did apply to schools that were a plane ride away. If you're getting down to the process and you want to finally narrow down which colleges you're going to choose, you have to really tour them, because that will give you the best bet. I have a few friends who accepted their acceptance to William & Mary without even touring the school, and for me that's like a huge risk, but a lot of students do that. So if you do so much research and you can guarantee that that's the school for you no matter what, then all the power to you. But I think tours are the best way to really get a feel, because schools that I thought I would absolutely love, I went on the tour and I just didn't feel the connection. Okay. So this question is, what advice would you give to parents about how to guide their children about college choices? So I have a lot of parents who did the entire process for their children, and that's not the best thing, because what a parent wants in a college can be very, very different from what a student wants. The parents may want a small school for their child, but the child may want a big school. So make sure that you're talking to your child about everything and anything. And I have a lot of friends who had a really hands-off approach and were like, oh, whatever, really nonchalant about the whole college process. So their parents just brought them on a lot of tours in nearby schools so that they could really compare their options and be like, well, I didn't like that. So the parents could get more of a feel. So I had someone ask what to do if they're offered a wait list. So wait list is very, very tricky. A lot of schools have a wait list. And when you're notified of the wait list, you usually have to accept it or decline it. So you either go on the wait list or you don't. Going on the wait list can be a really, really good option if that's the school you really want to go to. For many of my friends, when they were waitlisted, they decided that it wasn't for them. They'd rather go to a school that they were accepted to right away. But I have many, many friends who are waitlisted and end up ending at the school that they were waitlisted at. So I would contact whoever you have to contact about getting on the wait list, and contacting the school on a weekly basis, just making sure that they know you're interested and that you can even bump up the list. And this is something that college admissions counselors don't like to admit, but it really does help when you keep contacting them and showing them that you have an interest and you really want to get off that wait list. So even touring the school again, visiting, scheduling another interview, emailing them, and just keeping up with them is really important. Okay. So this question is, what if the school doesn't offer you a financial aid letter before the national reply date? Should I just apply and hope I'm given enough aid? Many schools now, because of the growing need for financial aid, have financial aid counselors. If you weren't given financial aid but you need it, I would contact that financial aid counselor and talk to him or her about everything personally that you're going through and expectations that you have from that school. So talking to the financial aid counselor will be your best bet of how much the school is willing to give out, if they'll give out any in the future. This is very specific to each person and their economic status, so it really, really depends, but the resources are out there. So if you are upset about how much you were given, or if you weren't given anything, contact that financial aid advisor at that specific school and talk to them about it, and they could even work something out with you. Most schools will offer anything that is need-based, so just be aware of that. So someone asked, is it okay to go to a school because you love the area? Yes, that is definitely an okay thing. You're going to live in that area for 4 years, and that's going to be a very, very long time if you do not like the area. I go to a school where there is a little community and a town, and I can walk anywhere in 5-10 minutes to go to any restaurants and any parks or, the outlets. So because I have so many opportunities on the weekend, I absolutely love my school because there's always something to do. And I have a friend who goes to a school where it's kind of like a little bubble, and he can't go anywhere and he can't drive anywhere because freshmen aren't allowed to have cars. So it's really important to pick a school where you can go and walk anywhere and really have opportunities at your fingertips, because 4 years is a very long time, and you're going to have many weekends where you want to have fun and you want to go out with your friends, and you're going to get sick of your campus and your campus food. So really picking a school that you love the area and that there's a lot to do is the best bet. Someone asked, what are great summer opportunities? I want to get the most out of my summer, but I didn't get accepted to the program I've applied to. What do I do now? So there's many opportunities for both incoming students in a college and also high school students. I think a lot of great opportunities for high school students that I didn't take advantage of were interning. A lot of companies want high school interns, and it'll be really, really helpful to get involved and get an advantage above everyone else. So there's many websites that you can look up, and if you're particularly interested in a certain company and what they do, look up and contact someone about an internship. I have friends who I currently go to school with that interned with senators, and while that is absolutely incredible, I never imagined that a senator would hire a high school student as an intern, but they really do, and there's so many companies like that. So really be aware and talk to your guidance counselors and even high school teachers about things that you can do in the summer. The summer is the best way to build up your resume and do things that make you stand out in the college opportunity. So it'll be really, really awesome to get involved this summer as a high school student, even going into college, because that is a connection that you can build for your next 4 years in college, and that you can use every summer when you come back from college. So someone asked, how can I get a full scholarship to the U.S. universities? Full scholarships are very, very hard to obtain. And it's really important to make sure that you're applying to schools, if you do need a full scholarship, either merit-based or need-based, that you're applying to schools that you're way above their statistical standards. So if you have a much better GPA and a much better SAT score, then you'll be not guaranteed, but you have a better chance of getting a scholarship. Full scholarships are very, very hard, and that comes with a lot of essay questions. So like I said before, you really want to make sure that you're putting the same amount of focus, if you need that financial aid, into those essay questions and contacting those financial aid counselors to make you stand out in that process as well. So someone asked, how important is it to visit the campus in person, and should you visit more than once if possible? It's very important to visit a campus. It's really important because that's where you get the feel, and that's when you know. I looked at many schools online, and I was like, oh, it looks so pretty, the pictures are so pretty, it was ranked this and this and this, I want to go look at it. And as soon as I stepped on, I didn't feel connected to the people. And it's silly to think about that you can feel connected to a school, but it really is. It's a home. It's a place where many students live, and it's a community. And you can know just by stepping on to, those college grounds whether or not it feels at home for you. I didn't visit any of my schools twice. If you're close by, I would suggest visiting as many times as possible. But if you are far away, understand that it is a lot of money, and it can be a lot of time during your senior year of high school to take off from school and visit. But visit as much as you can, as much as your parents will allow, because visiting more will teach you more about the school and give you more of a feel. Someone asked, 1 second. I can't visit a campus in America due to lack of money to travel, and I'm an international student. Is there a way I can know more about college grounds without actually going there? And there definitely is. I know at the College of William & Mary, you can look up on our website and it'll give you like a virtual tour of our campus. And because of our growing technological world, colleges are getting really in touch with international students and being able to show them ways of the campus without actually being there. So really look on the website and you can get a feel for the campus. And I know for a lot of international students that I'm friends with that go to the College of William & Mary, they came over the summer through a William & Mary paid program where they were able to see the campus before they moved in and got to spend here 2 weeks before they came. There's always the question, what if I don't love my school when I'm actually here? And that's always a chance, and it happens to a lot of people, and you do always have that transfer option. So don't think that this is my end all school, this is where I'm going to end up for the next 4 years. You always have the option to transfer, and it might turn out better, so always be aware that that option exists. Someone asked, what can I do best for writing my essay? The best thing I would say is just being yourself, and don't worry about the fancy words. Don't worry about writing the most sophisticated essay you've ever written in your life. It's less about that. It's more about, showing them your personality through words. And you only have 500 words to do it, and that's not a lot at all. So you want to make sure that you're really standing out and you're telling a story that is interesting. And you're drawing those college admissions counselors by your first paragraph. So you want to have the most interesting first paragraph, not like breaking news, this. You want to just really entice them and make your essay worth reading and worth reading fully and not just looking over it. So pick something that you're passionate about, and that passion will be seen through those words. Do colleges weed out applicants they don't want at their school by not giving out financial aid? No, that's not true at all. Schools, if they want an applicant, they will offer as much aid as possible. When schools really want an applicant, they will do what it takes to get the applicant there. Many schools have a financial blind process where they don't see how much your parents make and they don't see how much you need. They look at an applicant just based on numbers and essays. So it's less about this applicant will need this much aid, so we can accept them. That's a very unfair judgment, so colleges do not look at applicants based on that. I know at William & Mary they only base off gender, so that's the only thing that they look at that sets students apart is based on gender. Someone asked, what sort of career services resources does William & Mary offer, and how do they help students develop and demonstrate their theoretical knowledge into applied opportunities? William & Mary has an awesome career center here. It's called the Cohen Career Center. And unlike other schools I know, because my friends have told me, I went to the Cohen Career Center my first month of school to help me write a resume for something I was applying to over winter break. So the Cohen Career Center opens it up to all years. It's not just about juniors and seniors and getting them jobs. A lot of career centers have connections with alumni in all different areas. So William & Mary has an online portal where I can type in my name and I can type in where I will be over the summer. And immediately all these William & Mary alumni will come up with internship opportunities, job opportunities, interviews, and all different things. The Cohen Career Center also has mock interviews where I can go there and have a pretend interview, and then they can give me all feedback of how I should improve it for my next interview. They have resume writing seminars. They have they pair up with other schools. So we just had an event with Georgetown University where local politicians were there and policymakers where we could learn about internships and possible jobs in the government. So many career centers, including William & Mary, have endless opportunities, and it's their goal to make sure that their students graduate with a job, and during the time at the college they have internships. So the Cohen Career Center and other career centers are definitely very helpful to college students, and I encourage every single student that I come across to really go there and take advantage, because it's free, number one, and number two, it's so helpful, and they're professionals and they really know what they're doing. So what's the difference between colleges and universities? This is an ongoing debate. What I was taught by the admissions counselors is that colleges are just a name for a nationally accredited institution, but the College of William & Mary, because it's so historic, the reason that we still have the name the college is because we are so historic, and back in the day, university wasn't a thing, it didn't really exist. So colleges and universities are interchangeable in the United States. It has to do something very, very official with accreditation nationally, but they're essentially the same thing. So we have another question about part-time jobs, and would it greatly affect my education while having a job? And I don't think so. I think having a part-time job is just as time-consuming as really being involved in a club or an activity. So just be aware that you are having this time commitment, and college is very hard to transition into with, for me, I personally had more time in college than I did in high school, and it was hard to handle all that time because I just wanted to hang out and, have fun. But if you really are a diligent person, you can really work on your time management skills, then a part-time job is totally doable, and many students use that to pay for their college expenses. So someone asked, what if there are no more scholarships to apply for in college and I'm desperate need for financial aid? So when you're looking for scholarships, you want to look beyond the schools. Many times high schools will offer local scholarships to seniors, their senior year of high school, and there's even websites that you can just Google search scholarships and apply to privately. I know I have a friend who applied to a scholarship and got $10,000 just because he randomly submitted an essay to a random scholarship through a company and got it. So this is where essay writing is particularly important, because now you're not even applying through the college, but you're applying to companies, and you want to have all these essays ready, and you can reuse a lot of essays. So you'll generally have questions like, very simple questions like, what makes you stand out? And that's a very easy, simple question, and you can reuse that question for many different varying levels. So make sure you save all your essays and you can manipulate them to answer a question, because you're going to have a lot of essay questions to write through your whole senior year. So someone asked, does William & Mary have grants? Yeah, I know a lot of schools have a lot of options with grants, that they have like a organized thing where you can apply to a certain program. So for William & Mary, we have the Monroe Scholarship, where you can apply to be a Monroe Scholar, and that's considered a grant from the school where they allocate this certain amount of money to a certain group of students to continue research and have that. So look into the specific school that you're looking at and make sure that you are taking advantage of every single opportunity. That a lot of times these colleges, when they have grants, it's a separate application altogether, and they don't advertise that as much. So look into everything and really research. So someone asked, do colleges like William & Mary prefer the Common App over their own individual applications? Many times you will have not only the Common App to answer in that their general question, but also additional questions. And sometimes they're optional, but I would always suggest answering those questions because, like I said during my speech, that's your way to stand out. And by taking that extra step and going the extra mile to answering those questions, it's very, very important to standing out and showing that you really do care about the school and you're not taking the easy way out. So all schools will, if they're on the Common App, they will expect you to answer the Common App questions, but many times schools will have supplemental essays, which will be additional shorter essays that you can answer about the school. So definitely do that, do both of them, and do as many essays as possible because that'll really be your way to show your personality. Someone asked, I'm not sure what to major in and I want to pursue yet, so what classes would or should I take? So I have a lot of friends who have no idea what they're going to major in yet, and they just really took classes that interested them in high school, and at college there's even more courses to take. So if you were really interested into the sciences in high school, there are even more sciences to take at your college. Or if you're interested in history, just experiment with that. If you have absolutely no idea, you'll most likely, if you're going to a liberal arts school, have general education requirements, GERs. So getting those out of the way if you have no idea what you want to major in can really narrow down your options to, well, I really liked my English class, so maybe I'll contemplate being an English major. So that's your best way to narrow it down. Someone asked, what advice do you have for juniors who are preparing for this college application process? My best advice would be get a head start. I started writing my essay in March of my junior year, and that was the best decision I made because that was my common application essay. So I got it done in March, and I had so many people look over it, and I could look over it again in July when it was already done and realize, is this what I really want to use? Do I want to change it up? So getting a head start. Use your spring break, use your Memorial Day weekend, use your summer, this summer specifically, to, visit schools, narrow it down completely, and get a head start on your applications, because once your senior year rolls around, it's going to be very, very hard to have the motivation to finish all those applications when you're winding down. Someone asked, can you fund your graduate program completely depending on part-time jobs? It really depends on the person and how much the school is, how much financial aid you were given. Every person and their situation is different, so it really, really depends, but it's definitely a great option if you're concerned about money. So someone asked, so how do you write an essay if you don't know what the questions each school will ask in their application materials? The Common App uses the same questions every single year, so you can easily just look up the Common Application and their essay questions and get a head start through that. That's how I did it as a junior. As far as supplemental essays, the Common App usually opens end of July, beginning of August. So that's at that time all the colleges will have their supplemental essays, and you can just copy and paste all the questions into a Microsoft Word and get a head start. So that'll be your best bet. Another thing with the Common App is that you don't make a username yet, wait for it to come out for your graduating year before you get started, and you can just use the questions. They're posted on the Common App website with the questions that they use every year, but they're very general questions. The final question I can answer is, what tips do you have when writing your essay? So writing your essay is a very, very different process than what many high school students are used to. We're used to a 5-paragraph essay rule where you have your intro, you have your bodies, and you have your conclusion, and that's how we're taught to write. We're taught to write very simply, to the point, using transition words, but it's very, very different with college essays. The best way I can describe it is like journalism. So you're telling a story, and that story is about you. And you want to be to the point, but you want to be interesting. So you want to use language that's specific to you. My English teacher, my junior year of high school, said it the best way possible, that if we were writing in a diary and how we would use our own style and how we would, talk about ourselves and what words we would use is the best way to write our college essay, because this is how we're projecting ourselves, and you really want to show your personality. You don't want to use words that you're just thesaurus. You don't want to use words that you need a dictionary to understand. You want to use words that are interesting, that you would actually use in conversation, and you want to make sure that you are interesting, but it's also, impressive and eloquent, and you're sticking to the style that you went with. So my friend who wrote his essay in a version of a poem. He used very descriptive language because it was poetry. For me, I used more simple but funny language because the approach that I had to my essay was like a funny, satirical point of view. So you want to make sure you're really sticking to your style and you're being you. So that's all the time I have for today. Thank you so much, everyone who watched. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. My email's on the slide, so if you have any questions, feel free to email me and I can help any of you with the college admissions process. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.